We get one thread done. This process making sense? Everyone understand where we're going?
Yes.
So now we're going to move into the next area. So again, I'm linear. It's the way I do it. So just got to suffer through that with me. All right. So the next area is finances. Finances came up any number of times. You can do whatever you want. Here, there's some things in here that were sent to us. So one of the things that was sent to us was very specific. Increase the retirement match and the percentage salary raise each year over the 3% average increase, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a very specific one that came to us. I didn't know if it was 1 year, 6 year. I don't know if it's even you're going to keep it, but it was sent to us. The other piece that we talked about before, we'll come back to, is if you really want an endowment, then you got to do something like this. You don't have to do it. You don't have to have an endowment. But endowment was discussed. It was in there. If you're really going to have an endowment, then you got to do. And it's prioritized enough that as a board, and I do believe the board should have, in my opinion, endowment makes sense for board engagement involvement. Create plan within the endowment team to expand the donor base. Yeah. So again, if it's endowment teams, whatever, just some placeholders. This is what was given to us with finances. Are there things missing? Do you have ultimate goals? I mean, really a lot of the finances, and this is fine. We're going to have capital campaign down below. So capital campaign is so to say separate. In our opinion, you can tie it together. You could bring it back up here, Dan. I don't know if you put on the capital campaign. You're the one campus idea. This capital campaign. Establishing, and again, we have the numbers here just based upon what was sent to us, etc. We can change all that. I just threw in $15 million. I don't know what you're looking to secure. I think I heard $15 million maybe. So again, we can move that up into the finance, or we can leave that separate.
Well, it sounds like there are two separate issues based on our opportunities and challenges.
That's how I would read it, but again, this is your plan. So if you're like, oh, we want all the finances together, then put them together. And living document, you can always move them there. But we'll leave them separate for now.
Question.
Scott.
How much of the operating challenges are a function of one campus versus two? So if we had one campus, would some of those challenges go away significantly? I mean, obviously we still want more money. One organization does it. But would the host of our operating financial challenges be much less significant? I mean, is that largely a strain? Or is it just that we don't operate with enough money because of the way the budgeting process works at the state level?
The current two-campus circumstance, I think, puts specific financial strain on certain areas. Leases, etc., are a big drain, right? Consolidating to a single campus, though, will also open up different opportunities. So money currently spent on leases, for example, will be then required to grow these other things that will allow us to become the premier school of its region, right? I'm going to need money for athletics when we have a facility. I'm going to need, if we're going to grow to a certain number, I'm going to need more teachers. So I think what we really have to come to terms with is the per pupil payment from the state right now is a little over 12, a little under 12, over or under?
11.5.
A little under 12. And, you know, on average, they say it costs between 18 and 20 to educate a child, $1,000. And we're receiving a little under 12. So I think the reality is, to be what we want to be, we will always need significant supplement to our per pupil revenue.
So we're currently funding 2/3 of the actual cost through public finance, through public revenue.
I mean, that's kind of an average, is what I'm saying. Are we spending 18 to 20
Well, I know
on
we're spending less than
students?
about,
No.
I mean, how much, it doesn't seem like the donated amount, all we have very engaged and generous community. We're not making up, what's our cost?
We will really be able to determine that now that our startup grant is over, because we've been relying incredibly on the reimbursement. How much money was our grant? $5 million. So we've certainly utilized that grant from the state, which is now over. And so again, our annual fund, if you want to call it that, operational support above and beyond the per pupil revenue amount that we make is and will be essential. I don't have the number in my head of what am I currently spending per student, but
That $5 million number, was that over the 4 initial years of?
that's correct.
So,
Yeah. So a grant that I think the very initial board or Christina, I'm not sure who secured that grant for us originally. Christina.
She was the one who knew about it.
And it has changed a little bit since we acquired it, just because of the way that the state restructured it. They cut a year and they redistributed some of the money allocation. But that's gone now. So it would be, I believe that it would be fiscally irresponsible not to have an eye for operational annual fundraising to fulfill our mission.
So, I mean, it's a $1.2 million, $1.25 million shortfall per year that we need to fund. That we would have to, I mean,
I don't know that it works just divide by, it doesn't necessarily work by like that. You know, we've been, a lot of those things were also, there were stipulations on what we could spend it on. So we could only buy things that qualified as startup. We could not spend it on salaries. There were so many strings as to what we could spend it on. It's hard for me to be like, yep, 1.2. I just can't do it that way. Agreed? Mrs. Harding? Yeah. What I can tell you is 11 something per student, maybe it'll grow a little bit the next year, will not accomplish all the other things that we say we desire.
All right, so with all that information, and remembering back to our challenges and opportunities that we don't have we need to increase our donor base, we need to increase our donations, we're gonna get to capital campaign in a bit, those types of things. But understanding that there's a differentiation there. I don't think you need to put, so for example, I mean, your ultimate goal is to run a self-sustaining budget that allows you to meet your goals to be the premier school in the region. I mean, that's the overarching. I don't you need to write that in, if you want to.
So we're diving too deep.
No, I'm just saying, if you want to, I'm good with that. I mean, usually teams will put out here, basically run a self-sustaining budget that allows us to be the, time back up top, to be the premier school. A lot of people say that's too generic, we don't really need that. I'm certainly not against you putting it there, but that's your ultimate goal, right? 6 years. Okay, and that if just so run a self-sustaining budget that allows us to be the premier school. That's your 6-year target, right? Okay, so if that's going to be your 6-year target, what are some of the things that we've got to do to get to that? So again, you were talking about some alternate funding in your challenges and opportunities. We didn't rate it. We didn't rate this super high, but having an advancement staff. So, and please, no one talked to me ahead of time. No one is telling me to promote anything. It has to be your decisions. But this is where I do, and again, I do believe that there should at least be, my encouragement, board discussion at least, whether you own it or not. But if you're going to support that, if you're going to have an advancement staff, that does mean that you're either adding or reallocating the hours of personnel to do that. And I can tell you that part of what, and again, take it all, I'm just going to examples. This is such an interesting case study with Kettle Moraine Lutheran High School, they've had an advancement staff, they call them mission advancement. That's their official title, mission advancement. And they've had that for probably 15 years. But it's only been in the last 3 where they really fine-tuned it. But now, again, they switched from a principal who retired, there's a whole backstory to that, but they have a wonderful, amazing president who now, his primary role is to raise funds. That's what he does. So they have
Interesting career
him.
change.
So his primary role, he has woo communications, so
Uh-huh.
it fits well. And like Skylar,
He's a woo.
it fits well. But his primary role is really to raise funds and promote the mission. And now they have 4 directors that act as the principal, so they don't have a principal. But they redesigned their entire organizational structure to meet the challenges that they viewed the challenge of financial resources to be like A1 on their list. So they redesigned their organizational structure, and we walked with them through this process to have a president, 4 area directors, no more principal, and then funneling down to work with that advancement team. Prior, they had a principal and no one was really working with the advancement team, so they really didn't do much. But now, again, in a year and a half, they've raised $10 million.
Pretty good.
Does it make sense that a 90-day plan, sorry, I'm gonna work like a domino effect. Does it make sense that, in the context of what we're discussing, that a 90-day plan would be a working group that includes whoever it might be, but like business controller, our interim advancement director, board representation, administrative team, to design at least a plan for how an annual campaign and fundraising should look? Like, do we need a 90-day plan where this working group determines what an advancement team looks like, and are we gonna reallocate some of our funds to hire a person or 2 to take that on? Are we gonna restructure and maybe retitle our current roles to give someone the responsibility of more targeted toward fundraising and working with advancement? Maybe we need a 90-day working group to just sort of flush this out.
I think absolutely, because I think Tim sort of put together a preliminary document.
Right.
And some others add to it, I think that's great, so.
And it kind of will define who's gonna go with capital campaign and who's gonna go with annual fundraising, and what does that look like?
You moved, so.
I did not raise my paddle.
All right, it's like an auction, that's right, just give your paddle.
But I think, I'll put it out there, because like, I'm going on. I think, in my opinion, like for all these things, I think if we're talking about something doing 90 days, I mean, I like the idea, we're talking about like, that, but I think at the cost of it. So, I think in 90 days, if we can lay down what we all believe are the top 5 things that graduating students of LCCA can do, everything else can be built in. Like money, like programming, whatever. Look, the most critical thing, you want to go raise big check, small check, whatever. What it boils down to is that we can articulate like what kind of, to the scholar's point, in a lot of ways, like what's the outcome. When you want to sit in front of a billionaire and pitch like why they should donate to something, like this is how you raise money. You say, this is what happens after students go through our school. This is what they can do, whatever that is, whatever it is that we're, choosing how to articulate that. But that's what you need.
You do have a statement of the portrait of a graduate has been developed.
And what I don't know that. Glad to know that's there.
Yeah, it's part of our school profile that the college counselor shares with other schools.
So what is?
It's also on the website.
But just see what is like. Sometimes these things. I know a lot of places in the past. What does ours say? I don't know.
I do not have it memorized, but it speaks to their academic skill as well as their character formation, like when, as an LCCA graduate, he or she will be able to X, Y, Z. Will have had this, and this in their, academic repertoire, and also have the skills to this, and this as a,
Okay.
well-rounded flourishing human being. So
Yeah.
it kind of speaks to the two attributes of our mission statement,
Okay.
what that looks like in a graduate. When a student walks away from here, this is what we say they will be able to do.
Okay.
So if
I'll
that's,
take a look at that.
Yeah, and I think this is great, and I think that, so that, what you're describing is absolutely 100%. Once, from my perspective in working groups, once you have a working group, I guess the right term, a working group formed to do this, one of the things, if the advancement person is worth their salt, that's what they're gonna do.
Right.
They're gonna say, here's what you're supporting, here is our graduate, and then the beautiful thing, see, you know, unfortunately, you don't have 50 years of graduates to reference that, you know, Eisenhower graduated from here, you know, Gandhi went to school here, whatever else, you know, that you could put down, you know, to give those, that'll come. Right now, it's more predictive with it, but that's what an advancement person, you know, if they're worth their salt, would begin to paint that picture. Because you are 100% correct. If I want some, so I was always inner city urban. If I wasn't raising funds, we weren't opening the doors.
Right.
So I had to paint the picture
Are you available?
of
So-
how to do a lot of things, so, yep.
Scott, the flip side of this one also is, we have a job opening out there right now for a director of advancement. We're currently working with someone on a part-time basis in the interim role, but we're seeking a director of advancement right now. The job is posted. We have not started any interviews yet, but our HR partner is vetting candidates, and we're in the process of finding this person. So, you know, there are some things that are already in motion that would maybe speak to these things naturally already. I don't know if it needs to be, will that person take care of this role, is what I'm maybe trying to ask. Like, are we already into the 90-day goal because I'm just trying to hire someone? Maybe that's the goal. I need a director of advancement in 90 days. And then the 1-year plan is the working group that defines annual funds and delineates capital campaign. And the director of advancement designs out his or her team.
How long ago has that role been open?
So we, no, I have an interim.
Well, I know that, but I thought we've been trying to hire a permanent person.
We have not had the position open while he's been establishing a few things that,
But didn't we have it open before he was in
no, because we had someone in it.
We need a committee on it for now, and then just kind of see what happens with candidates, and then we can just remove it if we have a candidate.
Yeah, no, I'm just putting it out there to make sure everybody understands, like, some of this is already in motion, so I don't know how that affects the timing of goals or what those goals should even be. But maybe it makes sense to wait until the person is identified and is on board and then establish the
If you think
committee.
it'll happen in 90 days, then we don't want to start doing something that they're going to jump in. or-
Right,
you know.
that's what I'm saying, I don't know,
Okay.
we're just starting the process.
So can we just leave it on
So-
now, maybe we can?
Or put it in the parking lot, yeah.
What, okay, so now tell us, there were a lot of conversations going on here. I'm not sure I was tracking. Yeah, were you? Go ahead. Okay. So again, the goal is having that self-sufficient bus, a self-sustaining budget in 6 years where we've got good operational balance as well as any other special fundraising needs balance. So again, working backwards from there is, again, these are all just things Dan typed in. These are not
Great,
3-year plan thing, you just typing them in to not lose sight of things. Then you started talking, Mark, about a 90-day goal. And I think that 90-day goal was good, whether you have an advancement director hired or not. I think you need to move forward with it. You're in a spot where time is of the essence. So,
I think
So-
it's all line up.
Wait, question on that, though. And, Ari, this is not a critical question today.
Go for it.
I wanted to know. So, when you were looking to hire, putting out for director of advancement, how do you think about that role? Is it like the role itself is to kind of define what they're going after? Are
We
you
have
kind of
this-
feeding them like where direction?
We do have a job description, and it is, dependent on how the board wants to pursue a capital campaign. There's some characteristics of involvement in that. There's certainly oversight of
annual fundraising. The two that we have right now are the gala and the day of giving. Should that grow? Should that change? There is the clerical daily work of maintaining our donor application, our database, keeping that up to date. This down to the nitty gritty of like sending thank you
Administration
letters.
stuff.
Yeah, all of that is in this job description.
So I think so now that I'm hearing this again and listening a little bit better, I like what I heard. I think I would put 2 90-day goals based upon what was said. Is that a 90-day goal, hopefully best case scenario, is that a director of advancement has been hired and onboarded. But I think simultaneously happening with that is the working team, is the internal working, what did you call it again? Working group.
Yep.
So internal working group. So create working group of with board representative and selected others to begin to define forward movement with capital campaign and other financial directives.
Great.
And then that might fall into endowment, because endowment's a huge,
Yep.
it's a,
So, yeah, excellent. That's great. Now we can kind of reword it. That's great. This is great. So Dan, I didn't even repeat that because I probably can't. So,
Well, start with this.
yeah, so create working group with board representative and selected others to begin forward movement on capital campaign and other determined financial initiatives.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that make sense, team?
Could we even put movement on capital campaign, annual fund and financial initiatives? Because as we talked about before, the capital campaign is one thing, an annual fund subsidizing the operational budget is a second, and then
I think
this endowment thing is.
endowment after that too. So capital campaign, annual fund, endowment, and financial initiatives.
Great,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
And then if you do get a good, so this actually already, I feel better about you hiring a director of advancement in light of this, because now one of the questions you're gonna have to ask that person, in my opinion, if you're really committed to endowment, is how much experience do you have with endowments?
Are we committed to endowment? This is the first I've ever heard of that.
yeah, I was gonna ask,
That's,
what's everybody's definition of endowment?
okay.
Because in my head, endowment is the endowment going to retain funds for a scholarship for a future student? I mean, people have different definitions of everything.
So,
Is endowment for maintaining current facilities and future facilities, or the one, the campus? So I think we need to define.
which is gonna have to be, so I would leave it here, even if you wanna, even Dan, if you wanna put behind endowment in parentheses here, I know I pointed at the screen, you can't really see what I'm pointing to. But endowment in parentheses, just, make determination. Yeah, define and determine, define and determine. I think if you just put define and determine. I would leave, Dan, if we wanna take the lines on endowment that I added, put that as a parking lot down at the bottom. So those are really 4 natural steps. I'm just talking, every group, that they do something with that. So 4 natural, but we'll just put it down below because you haven't even determined if you want an endowment yet. Is that correct? And by the way, the investment policy statement is where you would be putting, so it's not only with your investment policy statement, but you also have a section in there as to, again, how you're allocating those, as well as you then would have a section as to how those funds are dispersed. And if it's a pure endowment, and if you work with a pure endowment, I'm not telling you to, there are different ways to do it. So it might not even be an endowment, it might be more of a values-based trust, because then you have more control over it. A pure endowment, you can only take out 5% of your earnings. And so if you're only earning, let's say you're earning $25,000 a year on that endowment, your payout on that is $5,000, which is not all that helpful to many groups. It's not hurtful. It's not. So again, there's a lot of things to explore there.
I thought endowment would have to.
Yeah. But of your earnings.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But that's your limit though, too, depending on how it's set up. Yep, yep. Yep, a pure endowment. And again, maybe something's changed, maybe I'm not 100% familiar, but again, that's something to explore. Because there are other ways to set it up. And there's a lot of places that call what they have an endowment, but it's not really an endowment, it's more of a trust than an endowment. All right, so is that making sense? The less is more, Ellen's piece that way. So again, if we've got all this and we're leading towards that, so basically in 1 year, I think really everything's gonna lead towards that 6 year. In 1 year, you wanna have fully implemented, or fully, implement's probably the wrong word, but yeah, I guess fully implemented capital
Onboarded,
campaign,
yeah.
fully implemented capital campaign under the direction of the advancement director. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then in 3 years again, I think again, there is just, and I'll let Dan type. In 3 years, Dan, I think you can copy and paste this running self-sustaining budget, but I think instead of running a self-sustaining budget, we have taken defined steps towards running the self-sustained budget. So again, what's going to come out of the 1 year plan, capital campaign, all that is more definition behind it. Because that's where I love Skylar's question. If you go to one campus, what I heard said earlier, and Skylar, I think maybe you're picking up on that, there are some efficiencies we could build in, where we're duplicating things right now and have extra costs, but it's not going to be a one-for-one type of piece. So team, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Can
Now-
you expand row 12 a little bit? Because I'm about to go to row 13 for you, Scott. I think any capability of our operational budget and when it relates to salaries, benefits, et cetera, would have to be determined by the working group as a financial initiative, if even possible. I mean, so I would suggest that row 13 is contained in the step of the 90-day thing above of financial initiatives.
That's what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that working group would maybe need to determine whether or not that's even possible within our budget. Or necessary, as, we run differently than other public schools, so we may not be able to compete on the same level as other public school districts in compensation. So I think a working group might discuss that.
So working group to discuss and determine the potential of increasing the retirement match, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's in the 90-day plan, and is one of their discussion items.
Right.
Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Is that a board, is that even a board?
That's my next point is, I also consider that to be an operational, right? Because I bring the budget to you all based on what.
So we can just put it in that 90 days as a placeholder, it's a
Yeah.
piece, it's no longer a standalone item that you're working on as a board.
Just
rather
wrote it.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So does it even need to be on there?
It would only be on there as a placeholder. If you think that's important for this group to discuss, then there's no reason to delete it. If you don't think that that's,
You might have to do maybe fundraising to get there.
I know, that's the thing, it might
Yeah.
determine how much money we target as annual fundraising if I'm targeting
So,
payouts to use more.
Dan, why don't we just take that one and just put it down below so you can have it in the parking lot?
Great.
To say, this was brought up. Is it even an issue? It wasn't on the issues list. So it wasn't a challenge or opportunity. But somebody set that in as a 6-year goal.
I bet it wasn't a board member.
It was me. It was me, and the background to that is with the public schools, the retirement plans are through the state. So what's the percentage, like 6.95%? Where right now we're at capacity of 3%. We can match 3% up to 6%. So that, in my opinion, all feeds into your pool of candidates for the teachers.
So are you
So you-
saying, I'm so sorry, point of clarification, but are you not in the WRS system?
We are not.
Why?
We cannot be, and this is what, in the challenge of being a nonprofit, yet a public school. So as our charter status, we cannot participate in this, in WRC. So we have to get our own retirement plan for our employees. So salaries are lower for faculty and staff when you compare to the public schools. Also, the retirement rates.
So it's a competitive, like, it's the pool of teachers at large that you're, why should a public school not be able to partake in the public?
You take that and run with it.
Yeah,
for us.
I want to know what you're told, because I see a huge problem here.
Yes.
No, what are you told? Seriously, what,
That's
why?
what we're told, but that's just the way it, we haven't asked why, it's just the way it is.
Who told you this?
So the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
So we could, I mean, you could through like one of the CISAs to get into the WRRC, they could take over all of our payroll.
What's RRC?
The state.
The WR,
Office
Wisconsin Retirement
Retirement
System is
So to get
WRS
it-
is
So
what
if you
I'm,
wanted
okay.
to do the, you know, the state retirement plan or whatever.
Yeah.
You would have to have another entity take over all of our employees and
Is it just the
that
payroll?
doesn't-
Is it like would it be like a payroll service, like paychecks that would?
No, I mean, it's
okay.
everything.
Are you,
And so
who's,
then that takes away your,
You're saying you have to
Your,
contract with them?
yeah, your
Yes,
ability to
yes.
compete. Who,
your independent nature. Exactly.
who signs your checks? Where does your check come from? No. Where does your check come from?
This school operating budget, payroll. Which is co-signed.
And the 11,515 or whatever the per pupil reimbursement, that comes from DOA, it comes from the state.
Correct.
So I don't know.
I see an opportunity, but off the
Again,
This is a
if
me
if this
problem.
is a board piece that you're gonna explore, you want it in the board plan, we
No.
can put it in there, all right? The other, potentially, again, in Minnesota, I know for us, for why we are not, we could if we unionize, but we're non-union.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you
You
have
should
that
move to
option.
Wisconsin, but
Don't know
okay.
that you have that option.
We are not unionized.
Oh, okay, so in Minnesota, no, so the line of demarcation for us in Minnesota, that allows, exactly what you're saying, is they said, well, become union, then you can have all of these access. So that's their answer in Minnesota, so. That's not the answer here.
We don't want to be Minnesota. We have a lot
I'm
of.
not telling you to come to Minnesota,
It's good.
nor am I saying it's easy in Minnesota. It is not, we have our challenges, all right.
I'm gonna.
So again, with this, are we good with that then, what we have there? Anything else under finances? Is that going to determine this plan, it's going to direct that? If you have a direct advancement, it's good. I'm getting this is just my own trepidation with advancement directors. Good ones are super hard to find.
Yeah.
So I hold out. Please don't settle. That is just my heart for you and what you're doing. Don't settle. I've seen schools and colleges and everything just churn through people because take your time, find the right one, please. Okay? All right. Anything else under finances?
Should we peek back at our challenges and?
Yep, we certainly can. So we got fundraising. One campus, which we're going to get to.
Yep.
You know, again, touting. So the messaging. So you have a lot of things in the challenge opportunities to really talk about messaging, which is going to come down to the work that your advancement director will help put together. should be able to help put together. Plus, again, you know, you're writing your vision statement, things like that. I don't know, did we miss anything in there?
Non-opportunities.
It's good work. That's the beauty of this process. When we get to the end, you'll be like, oh, we do have something in there with that. So we do. Okay.
I feel bad.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm trying to watch.
Okay.
I probably will trip, but it's all right. I'll get
It's
back.
Dan's fault.
Yeah. Okay. Oops, sorry. Other comments? Good there?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Let's start going into the next section then, which again gets us into the blue, which is the one campus section. Which my enunciation. So we look at here. This is, we just call it kind of one campus. So we have a 6-year one campus. It's going to be sooner than that. Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah.
3 years would be my.
Okay. So if we put one campus in 3-year.
Oh, put it on 90 days. Let's be ambitious. I believe in you, John. Just kidding.
That's great.
What
All
about
right.
the checkbook?
Just kidding.
All right, so 3-year plan on one campus. It's exciting, right?
It is.
It is exciting.
It's not that multiple campuses can't work, don't work, but the idea with everything that you talked about, your mission, your vision, your values, and the reading we've done before this, that makes sense. It's exciting. Okay,
I can consolidate here for us.
go for it.
That box that you just highlighted, Dan, I think is the definition of one campus. Like it's one and the same, with the 850 number being TBD based on the enrollment one that we already defined. But anyone can feel free to. Establish a K-12 program at a single campus with healthy retention and adequate wait list. And, the K-12 program is determined by that first red line, that being in the top section. And I love that it's a 3-year because we're going to need to be somewhere else at that point.
Okay, so if you're gonna be there in 3 years, what is the amount you've talked, have you determined anything? Sorry, I don't know that, I don't mean that as a bad question or anything, but have you determined an amount? Why is 15 million there?
Our financial forecasting has landed us in that general realm. We have some updating to do to the enrollment numbers, but that seems to be what we can afford to borrow. So if our capital campaign raises 15 million, we don't need to borrow anything, or maybe we would borrow. If we raise 15, we would borrow 10 and get ourselves even more, depending on. So there's a.
It's like our budget.
Okay.
We'd be financially healthy, having a debt of up to 15 million.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is your goal with the capital campaign? Is it to raise 15 million?
I think right now we are targeting is jump,
I thought it was 25%.
Well,
which was 5.
yeah, I think right now, I think, unless anyone thinks, I think I'd put the number at 5.
Yeah.
The reason being that we run about, call it $1 million of lease expense now. I think somewhere in the ballpark, like really napkin math estimation, with the cost of like our whatever facilities expense, whether it's to buy or own, whatever it is, we'll probably run around there, probably a little bit more. And logic being, I don't think you don't need a facility identified to go raise money for it. What you need is a vision articulated and the outcomes to raise the money. $5 million will get spent one way or the other. So whether it's like you're leasing something or you're using the money to own, so it's like it's a sensible amount because you're not being disingenuous with it. Like you're going to raise it for facilities, and whether or not that comes in the form of
lease expense because we're still leasing something, because we haven't found a thing to build, or buy or whatever, or it's gonna be the beginning of something to build. So that's the logic behind that.
Okay.
Napkin math money.
I like the napkin math, that's good. Does that make sense, team? It is the goal of the 5 million that you're raising in 3 year, 1 year?
I would think if we can articulate what we are doing and what we want to be when we grow up, I think 5 million in 1 year is a perfectly fine goal.
I really want, actually doubt that. And that's great. Yeah, quite honestly, yeah, that's great. It's great, especially if you get a good advancement director. So if we're gonna put out here, secure $5 million on capital campaign in 1 year.
We have to do it if we want the campus in 3. And after 5 and 1, we're close.
But I think this gives you good information too, Margaret. I would, let's be solid on this, Margaret and team. I think it gives you good information too as you're going with advancement director, saying, here's one of our goals. And
Yeah,
you come at 4.93, okay, fine, you're coming at 6.
I mean, I actually believe like if we target the pathways of prospective donors and what have you that we should be, like we should well exceed that if we actually lay out what we're trying to achieve.
I agree. I want to know of your population, and again, with my background with fundraising development, I'm not available, but I would be very excited. I'd be very excited by the position that you're in for the potential of raising those funds. All right.
So is this a spin-off of that other 90-day goal of securing the advancement director? Then that spurs to that person raises 5 million?
Well, they would be a part of the team that raises it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yep, it does. It goes back to that, you know.
Because that's what Ditloff's doing, right?
So, but there,
In theory.
is there another 90-day goal?
Yeah.
So I
Noticed.
understand. So Margaret, I understand what you're saying. So team, I think that, you know, again, you may wait to get the advancement director to get more specific here, but are you, from my understanding, are you already working with Tim Ditloff? Or do you have others? You know, is there a 90-day goal in there with that? Is there other 90-day goal? I don't know that.
He is working on the timeline right now, so we'll have to merge
Okay.
the current working plan with, you know, and insert this as the 1 year.
Okay. So there's not a 90-day. Well, basically, I think the 90-day piece would be communicate.
You could just say like, see current working plan.
All right. See current working capital campaign.
Yes, yeah, because one exists and it's currently underway.
Plan. Okay.
So I think
The
that
organic solar.
John brought up a good point, like one campus, maybe determine or have options on is LCCA owning the one campus, or will LCCA be leasing? With the situation of, you know, our opportunities of having like an existing building to get into one location. So I don't know if that has ever been entertained. I think it's more that LCCA would be owning the one campus, not necessarily leasing from somebody.
I think
Am I correct?
we had talked about with like Kettle Moraine was maybe if there was some sort of really long-term lease, we could consider it if we couldn't find another option. But I think the preference would be to own, certainly if we could.
So is there a separate
Might have to be
90-day?
staggered, like if you can't get to the one owning, then you might have to, yeah, you might have to stagger that out.
I think the goal, like the ideal would be to own, because that's generally what, I think though, I think my biggest point about that is not one versus the other. I think the ideal objective would be to own, of course. I think the objective first and foremost is get ourselves into a strong financial position to go make the 50-year decision, of which this is likely going to be. Or ideally it would, ideally it would be. Like I just, like I think my general view is you're just better off coming from a position of strength when you do those type of things. You just like rational thinking in general is just better. And this just, and the thing is, it's very well in the realm of like possibility. But yes, we should own something. That's and some other ideas that we've kind of kicked around. Like I think if the community owns it, like whatever, there are different ways to get there. But, yeah.
Is it fair to say though that that line item has like a on fire sense of urgency to it? That, are we actively pursuing sites and, I'm not asking, that shouldn't be a question, but we should be actively pursuing
So it's,
sites of all
how I
kinds.
would put it in light of this, in light of our process, is now, so this is capital, it's not just all money here. So if there's another 90-day, 1 year of something like, in the next 90 days, determine top 5 sites, and by 1 year have it finalized have site finalized. I don't know if that's right or if that's wrong or if that should be in here. I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. That's kind of what I'm hearing being potentially discussed here. And or, in the next 90 days is top 5 sites plus other options. You all talk.
I think, like if I were to just lay this out without, and just throwing out, in 90 days, we have to be able to articulate like what that we want to grow up. Within that same 90 days, you take that and you put it into a capital campaign mission, like, what do we call it, case statement, whatever you want to call it. Like, in my world, it's just, we basically have our pitch. And we lay those, and that's the scope of 90 days. The actually like finding sites or what have you, because there is, in the way I think about it, like you want to be in the strong financial position that puts you just in the best position to make the best decisions. But that being said, there's always practical realities. So I think keeping an eye out for things like in 90 days after we have those, like our story, so to speak, then to think about wanting to get in front of if there are opportunities out there. I think that's fine, with it having in mind that the degree of deal that can be done is done strictly on a finance contingency basis. Like you can do a deal for a site thing. I don't know, we went about this the last time, but like you can do deals where it's, here's a facility, like you go into contract based on 6 month, 9 month financing contingency, and you lay out that, you're pursuing this type of financing, equity plus debt, whatever, and then you got the time period to do it, and you make it very clear that that's what the terms are. We will get into trouble. You get into trouble on a general basis when you try to go into a contract without either giving yourself the time and the ability to get the funds, or just straight up not having the ability to get the funds. So I think it's like if we get our story straight and our objectives straight about what this is going to be when we grow up, we can then determine if we want to go and look for, site opportunities immediately, or we can just say we're just going to go raise the money in the next 6 months to a year. Big check donors generally that does take time. Like I think if we have 90 days to get our story straight, to go, I think there's existing pathways in our universe to go that'll be faster. But if you're trying to get in front of, really big check, $50 to $100 million type of endowment, family office type of situations, to go with a check from that, like, that's gonna take a 6 to 12 month relationship building timeframe.
I think that's consistent with the message we've talked about at recent meetings. Let's figure out the story, start raising money, keep looking for properties if something falls in our lap, but get through that phase and then actively start looking for properties.
So determine top 5 build sites of pre-existing buildings would be a 1 year.
I think we should be identifying those. I don't know about engaging them yet, but I'm of the view that we should be identifying what are our top sites and discussing.
It's fine.
Not that we necessarily have to pursue a contract with them imminently, but.
So the goal, if the goal is to be in one campus in 3 years, so that's fiscal year 27, 28. So you have to be building and doing your renovations and everything to open up that year. So I don't know if our timelines work.
I know we don't have a 180-day plan on here, but the thought is just, get through this 90-day. We have the advancement director, we have our fundraising plan. Tim's done some work, John's done some work, Tim has some people identified. But get through that and then maybe form a committee from there, or a working group from there, and then talk about next steps in terms of timing and looking for properties, whether we hire a broker or however we do it. Because I feel like that's sort of what we've talked about at meetings, is let's worry about getting the story straight and getting the money, and then start focusing more on the property, knowing that if something happened to come along, we have people watching for it, telling us about it, we'll keep looking at those. But that the working group after that would be to take those next steps and start planning out the actual property and purchase.
And what we do is we just put Q2 behind it. You can put 180 guys. If we've got a good solid 90 and somebody says, here's the next 90, that, as long as this plays out, then that's what we capture that. So we will put that in there and just label it as, 180 behind it, but we'll just put it in that, so, and Dan, we can just put it in that same box. So if I'm hearing things, and let's discuss this. This is a big one. So what I'm hearing here again is, what I just heard you say, Randy, please correct me if I'm wrong, basically, is determine the pitch case statement to be used with donors, what we want to be, again, when we grow up, finalize that. And I would say here is, is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
And then the next, and right below it then, Dan, the next 90-day or Q2, however you want to determine, label it, but the 180-day goal, that would be have work group formed to take next steps in the process for determining potential sites and other research and development. Is that what I heard you say?
Close enough.
If it's not, you
No,
can't.
it captures it,
All right.
if that makes sense to everybody else.
Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah, I see that finalize the pitch case statement, or as John keeps referring it, what we want to be when we grow up as that enrollment line that we first determined. Like, what is the ultimate size that we're going to be?
And
For what
Oops,
reason?
sorry.
Size and vision.
yes.
Right, so those, whatever the red section was, is those two things in the first 90 days are essentially that.
Are feeding
They're
that.
getting done by those two other targets. And so once those are complete, we'll just domino into the working group with next steps to determine top sites. And then in a year, hopefully we'll have a site. And in 3 years, we'll be in it.
Good there, Tim?
When I say hopefully, I mean
for sure.
Yeah.
Exciting. Oh, that's exciting. It's exciting. And again, this is where we've got to hold each other accountable in these work groups and pieces that we're doing these steps. We're doing these steps because they're going to lead you there. And again, this is part of the beauty of this process. Once you write it down, now we do have accountability. We've talked, and again, I'm not, please don't think this is bad. We've talked about a lot of things, but we haven't necessarily taken that next step with it per se. This now requires that next step. Awesome. All right.
So in a year, are you saying that you would have a site?
I think to be in a site in 3 years, we should probably know what it is in a year, because it's gonna take either building or renovation.
Yep. So the 1 year would be finalized determination of site.
Yeah.
And then this one, the finish securing 15 million of capital campaign, you're talking, there's debt to equity that you might want to go in, or is this full on 15 mil that you guys?
I think
That's
that
the-
actually, we dominoed back to the 5 in 1, and then
So the 15 can go away,
I think so.
is what I heard there. Now, there may be a 3-year goal that comes out when you have your
Right.
development person, et cetera. So that may.
Yeah, maybe we get on a roll and
Yep.
we decide we want to raise another 10 or
Yep.
another 5.
To retire capital debt and things like
Yeah.
that. So there's
Yeah.
all kinds of ways to couch that when you get to the development world. So now it's not
Right.
raising,
Then we create a new goal.
Yeah,
that is correct. Yep.
so I think you
So
can
just
delete
confirming.
that's all.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
So we've got this,
That.
Where
and
did our
this.
3-year goal go? Somewhere else? Our 3-year for row 20?
We didn't have one yet.
Oh, okay.
So we've got finalized, the 3-year should be that you're in the, you're in the new campus. So in the new campus with the 700 students really is what you're, you know, the number's arbitrary, understand,
Great.
but that's really the 3-year goal. So really it's copying in the red. It's not necessarily copying the red, but it's basically being in a building that supports the red 3-year. And again, today we'll clean this up a little bit and things like that to come back with a little bit cleaned up piece tomorrow. But does that make sense? So then, all right. Good with the blue that we have there for capital campaign. Yes.
Congratulations, Ellen, you'll be raising $2 million by next Thursday.
Okay. Are you going?
Sure. I'm gonna go buy some.
Well, I'm gonna have some more. So then the other one that was given to us, in the email, you know, again, securing pre-work, somebody said that, and again, none of these are good, bad, ugly, and different. I mean, they're just ideas. So that's that positive conflict is to push back on ideas and issues. So don't feel bad if it's et cetera, but there was someone who put in to provide an increased academic and extracurricular programs to students as their own goals over the years ultimately in the one campus location. We had talked about that before. That was up there. We had talked about that in Challenges and Opportunities. It got rated pretty low because it already got taken out completely because it was more operational than it was board level. Does it just go away? That's pretty much what, you know, once you get the site, then your experts, such as Eric or whomever, would say, we need a football program, we need a lacrosse program, we need a pheasant hunting program, whatever.
Definitely.
Whatever it might be, so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's operational.
So it goes away?
Bye-bye.
Anything else in the blue? Again, knowing that it links back up to the 850 potentially, et cetera, but really the blue is gonna be, for the most part, done in 3 years unless your advancement director says, oh, we need to cast a 6-year also. Or somebody else does.
Yep.
Good there?
So,
All right, I gotta remember who has harmony in the room. So, Ellen, you have harmony. So you just walked in though. So you can determine if it's artificial harmony. So when people nod their heads in the room, are they really on board, or are they nodding their head and then going out in the parking lot and talking bad about everyone, which is the artificial harmony side of things. So you can read the room. Are we on the same page?
On the,
And you just walk back.
On everything that you missed.
Yes, everything
totally.
you missed. I'm just
Yeah.
teasing you. But harmony, people with harmony, if you remember the strength of harmony, so those that have it in here, which would be, are you the only one?
She's
Oh,
special.
then we're in trouble.
My goodness, well, that's a lot of weight on your shoulders, especially responsibility number one.
I
is
know.
You can't say no either,
I
so
know.
that's the other piece.
Yeah.
But no, harmony, and true harmony is where we're all in agreement. So again, that positive conflict piece with the 5 essentials, that's to get you to true harmony, because if you don't have positive conflict, people aren't really sharing what they're feeling, what they're saying, then you get artificial harmony, which is the nodding of the heads and then talking bad in the parking lot. So again, we want none of that today and tomorrow. So are we good at this point? At least as far as what we know and see. Okay, I'm gonna take that as real harmony. So let's take 5 minutes, we got to stretch. We're gonna come back into general